Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to World of Nutrition podcast. Today, we have two amazing powerhouse women entrepreneurs, and I can't wait to hear from both of them and learn from both of them. So, first up, we have Hillary Valentine. She's a holistic birth professional and motherhood coach. She provides encouragement, tools, education, support, and wisdom with over 15 years in the medical based health and wellness industry as an occupational therapist, pelvic floor therapist, health coach, and doula, while rooting her teachings in her own experience as a mother of two girls. Hillary is on a mission to support women in finding alignment physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and energetically in pregnancy and early motherhood. I love that. Take it away, Hillary. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marilyn, for having me. This is awesome. And I love talking about what I do, because what I do is really a work of all my passions coming together. But before I get into too much depth about what exactly I do, I want to introduce a term that is central to everything I do, and that is the word matrescence. So matrescence is the becoming of a mother, and it aligns in some ways to the transition we go through in adolescence, where everything is changing from our social environments, our physical state, our emotional capacity. And the same happens with mothers when they become a mother. And it is a very fast transition. It doesn't happen over years. It happens over the course. The initial impact of it happens very quickly. Now, it does go on for years. So I always say, women always come to me saying, well, I had a baby 5 years ago. I'm not postpartum anymore. Can I work with you? And I truly believe that once you've had a baby, you are forever postpartum. You can't undo what happened. So my work is very central in supporting women in finding their selves in this new and very large role that they hold, while also not losing who they truly are. Because we are mothers, but that is not everything that we are. We are still complete beings. And oftentimes women can just get lost in that. And I'm speaking a lot from my own experience. So within my work, I work with women in a variety of ways. In the last year, I have really shifted my focus on pregnancy, because prior to that, I was focusing on the postpartum, because that was where I struggled so much. After my second, things just were not the same, and nothing felt right and nothing felt easy. And it was just, every day was like a grind. And I was like, what is happening? And it took me almost a whole year to kind of wake up to this is really hard, and start to dive. That was my shift from working a more clinical based occupational therapy job, where I was helping run a busy integrative health clinic and seeing clients and working full time and dropping my kids off at daycare and seeing them for 2 hours a day, if that, and waking up and being like, what is happening? This is so hard, and this shouldn't be so hard. So I started diving into more women's health focus. And so for the first beginning years, I worked as a doula, and I dove into pelvic floor therapy and was working very much postpartum, because that's where my struggles started. But now, about almost 4 years into this, I'm shifting more to pregnancy, because every postpartum mom I've worked with, I've said, I wish I'd seen you in pregnancy, or even before then. And so now my programs for pregnant moms include what I call aligned birth sessions. And this is where I support moms in preparing their body, mind, and soul for this transition. It's very birth focused, because that's what women are very focused on when they're pregnant. But we talk not just about the physical. It's not like what's going to happen in birth. It's more looking at your body and looking at your mindset and helping that woman feel like they're ready, like they can walk into wherever they're choosing to give birth and have a level of comfort with what's about to happen, which allows their nervous system to then go into the essential flow state for birth. Because they're like, Hillary's helped me learn how to align and mobilize my hips and my core and my pelvis. And it feels ready. I've noticed the changes already. I know it can open. I know this is going to happen. And then I also have all these beautiful mindset strategies that I've practiced and rehearsed and feel comfortable and good and aligned with myself. So those are my aligned birth sessions. I've also started running retreats that I call becoming retreats, and it's all based on that term matrescence, becoming of a mother. And the core theme of the weekend is, of course, is a retreat, so it's slowing down, but more specifically is helping pregnant moms tune into their own innate maternal wisdom and their intuition and listening to their bodies and those signals they get as their ultimate guide as they go forward in this transition into motherhood when the baby is now earthside. Because this is something I wish I had learned. It took me years to really start to reconnect, to truly trust and listen to my gut intuition. And we moms today are just being bombarded with information. If you have a problem, there's 100 answers for it. And so overwhelm is so easily achieved. We all get there all the time, especially new moms when you're navigating so many new things, but you don't know who to listen to. And I coach a lot around the theme of your wisdom, it's in your being is able to help you navigate these big things. You may not know the objective answer, like why does my child have a rash? But you can navigate those challenges much easier when you're listening to your gut, your intuition, your wisdom, whatever you want to call it, or it can be more of a spiritual guidance as well. And I try to help my moms like connect to what works for them. And even the language we use around it is really different with every client I work with. And then I am a pelvic floor therapist. So I work a lot with postpartum moms. And I've worked with postpartum moms from 3 weeks to 30 plus years. So once postpartum, always postpartum, and always can benefit from pelvic floor therapy. I think it's something that, just like they say, everyone probably should talk to a psychologist at least once in their life. I think everyone should see a pelvic floor therapist at least once in your life, because it's an area of the body that is so much more than the physical. And that's why I call myself a holistic birth professional. I always am using this word holistic because I can address the physical aspects of your pelvic floor. That is like cut and dry, black and white to me. But often if we're just addressing the physical aspects, we're missing, and I say there's 7. So it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic, environmental, and social. And this comes a lot from my occupational therapy training. There's many aspects of how we address all of our clients as OTs, and that especially that environmental and social aspect. So there are those aspects within our pelvic health. So like physical is very straightforward, but emotional, like what emotions are being caught up there, how we feel about our pelvic floor, how comfortable we are with that space and what it means. And then the spiritual and energetic, those kind of flow together of this is our womb space. This is where creation begins. And it's an energetic powerhouse center in our body. And if the energy is shut down or amplified too much, that can be a driver of the problems, not so much the black and white muscle stuff. So the muscles can be relaxed, but then now it's a shift of your energy, or you had trauma there, and we're not addressing this emotional, spiritual aspect. That problem is going to keep coming up. So we have to peel back all these 7 layers of holistic pelvic health. So then to describe environmental, there's our environment that we're in can impact our pelvic floor. So think like a stressful environment. Well, stress causes tension, and our pelvic floor is the muscular center, and it can create more tension. So are you living in an environment that is very stressful day to day? And how can we minimize that environmental stress to help improve that pain in your pelvic floor? And then socially, we may not like to admit it, but our pelvic floor is a very social area. Other people encounter it. And are those encounters healthy and supportive and trusting, or are they not? And that also in our own relationship with our sexuality is very key as well in having a healthy pelvic floor. So whenever I'm working with women, I'm looking at all these 7 aspects, whether it's specifically within the pelvic floor realm or just a mom coming to me like, I'm a mess and I don't know what's happening and I just need help. And this is a framework of how I start with all of them is let's go down these 7 things and just talk about how you're doing in these areas and how your activities. So this is where I'm rooted as an occupational therapy. It's all about what we do day in and day out. And if it's meaningful and purposeful, that brings us health. If we feel like we have meaning and purpose within our days, we are healthier. So in all these 7 areas going through, even if this is a client I'm working with more in a coaching capacity, those 7 areas. I also hold workshops all the time. Like one of my workshops I've been running more frequently is balancing your body for a better birth. So I want my services to be accessible to all. And I offer services in a realm of entry points financially. So those workshops are very low cost and sometimes free, and doing just basic education about pelvic health or what to expect in the 4th trimester, those first 12 weeks postpartum. And then I'm also an instructor with Fit for Mom, which is a group fitness program where you can bring your baby, or I teach the one for pregnancy, and it's just about getting moms moving during pregnancy, which the research is unending in the value of exercise during pregnancy. And the last thing I wanted to touch on is a new project I'm working on that I'm feeling really excited about because it brings in all of this and more, because it links with my own passions. So I've always been very passionate about my career as an occupational therapist. And I think it's like, I describe it, a lot of people are like, well, what does an occupational therapist do? You say, well, when I worked in an integrative health clinic, so there were medical providers, there were chiropractors, there were psychologists and PTs and acupuncturists and massage therapists. And I came in as the occupational therapist, and I said, I'm the glue that holds all of these services together, because none of these services can help everyone. And there's always those clients that are falling through the cracks. And occupational therapists, our role is to meet the person where they're at and support them in finding meaning and purpose in their day, in their life. And what that looks like depends on who that person is. So it's one of the, if not the only service that works, medical service that meets clients where they're at. And this is the root of our profession. It's becoming a lot more central in other professions, but it started in occupational therapy. That the only way to have health is through meaningful and purposeful engagement in daily activities. So the things you need to do, you have to do and want to do. And if you're not having that, so for example, you tore your meniscus, but you're a surfer. You just lost one of your most meaningful and purposeful activities. And so an occupational therapist, you would think like, oh, I'm going to go to a PT, and yes, go to the PT and go get the imaging, and maybe you need the surgeon, but the OT might be able to help you with the emotional impact of this, with the social impact of this, with how can we adjust your environment to bring you access to what brought you joy about that activity. And I mentioned surfing because my program that I'm developing is a program to encourage women in postpartum to get back in the water or to start getting in the water to ride waves in whatever the way they enjoy riding waves or want to enjoy. And through these 7 aspects, are we preparing to get back in physically, mentally, emotionally, like thinking about the logistics of it? You now have a little one, and supporting moms in overcoming those hurdles. And when they get in, they feel stronger, they feel more confident about their body. So I just had a conversation with a mom this morning who's a lifelong surfer. And when she hopped in the water, she was like, I just felt so wobbly and weak. And I'm like, well, that's exactly what this program is going to help, that you have a resource to go to. And of course, just surfing is going to help that. But you have a resource to go to of like, if I do this exercise at home, that's going to help me feel stronger when I get out there and feel more confident and worry less about possibly getting injured or not being able to get out there. So that's a program I'm working on now. So I have my hands in all sorts of things, but really it's around pregnancy and birth and postpartum and just navigating this tremendous shift in your life while staying connected to your body, to, I always say, like your soul, like who you truly are and what brings you joy. And I guess I want to add the last thing is that sometimes being a mom is not what is bringing you joy. And that's okay. There are things that will bring you joy while you are also still holding on to that role as mother that you, of course, would never give up. But honoring moms in however they feel about this experience of motherhood, and that all of it is correct and okay, and you can navigate it and feel wonderful and feel connected to yourself through this transition. So I don't know what else I have to say. So I'm going to kind of wrap up there.
Wow, that was amazing, Hillary. I learned so much. And I love how you said if we find meaning and purpose in our day, we are healthier. And you helping these moms, find their meaning and purpose. It's so powerful. And I also loved when you said, once postpartum, always postpartum. I'm like, oh, that is true. I never even thought about
Yeah,
that.
you can't undo postpartum.
Yeah. So, you are able to help so many women out there. And I think it's so fascinating what you do. So thank you very much for
You're
sharing. Please
welcome.
tell everyone, how can we find you? And tell us
Yes.
about your upcoming retreats as well.
Yes. So my business is called HV. It's my initials, Holistic Health. And I am on Instagram primarily through HV_Holistic Health. And then you can also email me at hillary@hv-holistichealth.com. And I currently don't have any retreats on the books right now, but I am holding my Balancing Your Body for a Better Birth in August. I believe the date's going to be August 20th at Wainani Wellness here in Honolulu in Kaimuki. And I always have new things in the works. I also often do events with Yoni Steam Honolulu, and we're starting up a women's circle where not every month, because if we do it every month, there'll be women who are excluded because you shouldn't Yoni steam when you're bleeding. So we have to do it like every 6 weeks or so to rotate. But it's a women's circle where we come together and just talk about topics of being a woman today, femininity, all that beautiful stuff while getting a Yoni steam, which is very nourishing for ourselves. And that's coming up on August 4th. I think that it's a Friday, August 4th at Yoni Steam Honolulu is my next event.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. That was
Yes, thank you for
fantastic.
having me.
And next we have another amazing entrepreneur. Nadia Fairland is an artist and art therapy teacher. She creates large-scale wood sculptures from her art studio in Waimanalo. Following her purpose of reminding others who they are through art and creativity, she teaches art therapy to overwhelmed creatives, providing a structure to her clients to be free from overwhelm, build a healthier relationship with their creativity, and show them how to have their dream creative life. I cannot wait to hear from you, Nadia.
Hi, thank you, Marilyn. That's the perfect segue. And I was looking down and taking a bunch of notes while Hillary was talking. And the thing that stood out to me, which I knew would happen today, which is the topic that I was going to talk about, is overwhelm. And Hillary was communicating her understanding of that with moms and what it means to be a mama having to deal with all the different aspects of overwhelm. So specifically what I do is I am primarily an artist, and I make large-scale wood sculpture here on the island, and I've been in the art fields my whole life, really. And I'm also an art therapy teacher, and what that means is I help women who are creatives, who struggle with overwhelm. They don't have time to create what they want because they're running their business or they're being a mom. Take control of their time back, their capacity to create, and they get to create a new future for themselves without making your to-do list even longer. And these happen with my advanced creativity healing sessions and programs that I run. These are live in-person sessions. I know Hillary just recently got to take one with me, and also my online course that I teach too. And my background comes from a couple of different areas. Traditionally, I went to art school. So I did spend 8 years in art school learning multiple different kinds of art techniques. And I'm also a body, mind, spirit facilitator. So I have a 400-hour registered yoga teacher. I'm a black belt in the Nia technique, which is a dance movement form. And I'm also a pranayama breathwork facilitator. So in that lens, I've helped hundreds of women and children heal their relationship with their creativity and their body through the work that I've done. And then lastly, with my work, it's also founded off of having a meditation guru for about 10 years, where in that time where I was living in an ashram, I learned that meditation and creativity and imagination are all the same entry point to knowing your divine connection, to knowing a deeper connection with source in that way. And I put all of this together in the last few years because I, at a certain point, was very overwhelmed in my art business creatively. And there was no way for me to understand how to be free of it. And overwhelm, basically at its core, basically means that things are not in order, that there is chaos. So it's a lack of order, and that happens in our life schedule, that happens in our creative output, and that happens in our future. So when those things are not put in order, then there's chaos and overwhelm, which leads to the heavier emotions of anxiety and numbness, depression, disease, and the list goes heavier down there. And what I do is I strive to help women that are creators. And so this could be musicians, it could be dancers, writers. I have clients that are writers, interior designers, dancers, writers of short stories, long stories, and artists too. And they come to me because basically their creativity is stifled, like their purpose, their life's purpose is to create. And they feel like they're stuck underneath this really heavy burden. And what they say to me is that they feel like they're stuck under this really heavy, never-ending burden that they can't get out of from underneath. And the reason why that's happening is that our brains, they are not meant to be on all the time. As you know, in our society, in our world right now, there is this love, pride, obsession with our logical progression of making stuff happen and producing. It's this really mechanical driven, I'll call it a masculine essence of outward projection of our energies. And the feminine, which is what Hillary excels at, that feminine of pulling back into ourselves, of those intuitive qualities, the ability to be soft and be in the flow, that is shunned and looked down upon. It's frowned at and it's pushed to the bottom of our schedules. However, it's those states, that softening, that flow state, that pulling inward to our creative center, that is really truly the most recharging state we can get to. You can call it imagination, you could call it creativity, you could call it prayer, you could call it meditation. Whatever that inward pull back in and shutting off all the outward noise, that recharges the human body like nothing else can. It refills your tank, it fills you back up. So that's one of the phases of the training that I do with my clients, is I train them how to reclaim their time through their vastness of their life schedule so that they prioritize putting creative healing back into their schedule for themselves. If they're empty, they can't create, or what they're creating is not from the fullness of their heart and their soul. And then their client feels that, and that limits the flow of money. Another aspect that I share, another phase of what I do, and this comes from all the layers of the trainings that I have, is the creative women. They come to me because they're burned out, exhausted from all of this lack of order, and they don't have the energy then to create or work on their creative projects. So in order to receive the information that we want to receive to create the output that we want to create, our body has to be recharged. It's got to go back into a restorative state. So the second phase of what I teach with my courses and programs is recharging of the physical form of our bodies. And I do this through 3 different layers. I do this with art and writing therapy practices, with biofeedback breathwork, and somatic visualization. So I'm training my clients to pull all of their energy that they're putting out to all these different areas that's draining them, to pull their energy back into their center. And I'm teaching them how to use their own creativity to heal themselves. The truth is, talk therapy has its limits. Other forms of therapy has its limits. It doesn't necessarily recharge the physical body. It doesn't bring that peace and that ease and that comfort that we're longing to have, that our creative mana, our life force energy, provides for us. So the art and writing therapy combined with a biofeedback breathwork, which is like a trauma release breathwork, and somatic visualization. These three things paired together, they help my clients learn to recharge themselves. they get to take back control back. They learn to do the therapy back on themselves. The truth is, we're always going outside of ourselves looking for the answer. Will you help me? Will you help me? Will you heal me? Will you solve my problem? I have this question. What should I wear? What should I do? All of those things, right? And we're trained to do that. We're trained not to look, turn back in, and not trust our inner voices. So I provide this training for my clients so that they get to cut out the middleman and go deep within themselves without, and I'll say this without hoping, without offending anybody, without a church, without an organized religion, without something outside of ourselves, without a program or a therapist. We do truly have within ourselves the ability to connect to divinity and source. I know that firsthand by having a meditation teacher, but there were so many limits there. It all came back to the teacher and that form, and God and divinity is everywhere. And I'll show you how to find it back within yourself so that that God that you understand and that you know that's so valuable to you, that voice is louder and stronger and even richer. And the third phase and process of what I do with my clients is that because there's so much overwhelm with their schedule, with their creativity, and with what they're doing, their future is unclear. Or they're chasing after somebody else's creative future, what they think it's supposed to look like. Just recently, last week, a client of mine said, I want my dream back. I want my creative dream life that I thought I was going to have when I first started this. And I don't know where it is anymore. And I've lost it. She also said, I'm so numb and depressed because I don't know how to get back on track to that place. And so all of my clients, they once dreamed of having a very fulfilling, magical, creative life. And they've lost it in the past. They've lost it in the busy work. But the truth is, our creative future can only be designed from within, from knowing what our fantasy, desire, dream life is. And once again, that means going back inside and asking ourselves the questions of, what is it that I really, really, really want in a world where anything is possible and there's no limits? What do I want? What does that look like and how does that feel? But the challenge is, it's a really fun phrase to say, okay, client, go out there and tell me what you want. But what's layered underneath all of that is frustration and anger and rage from having to give up their dreams to make the money, to have the job, to have the family, or those other things that piled up in that way. So part of the process is, yeah, let's remind ourselves and recreate what our dream was. And I teach them how to pave the stepping stones to get back to their dream. But every step of the way, there is an emotion that's blocking you, that's there, that can't be bypassed. You can't go around it. You can't go over the anger. You can't go under the anger. You've got to go through it. And once again, most of us do not have our own personal toolkit to deal with anxiety, panic attacks, your mother getting sick and having to take over their estate, a sick child, this didn't work right, the money went there, that whole list, that whole spectrum of life experiences. So I take my clients back to the second phase and I remind them how to use those different tools so that they can bust through these emotions, make these emotions their friends, so that they can progress to the future and the dream that they want to have. So I teach my clients a really precise step on how to recover their dream life. And once they know how to do it one time, they don't need me again. They can repeat this process on their own again and again as we age and different curveballs are thrown to us in our life. Because ultimately, the truth is, there is a really powerful voice inside each of us. And if we could only tap into it and hear it and follow it, then we will be able to have, not just have, but manufacture, sculpt, create, draw out, illustrate the exact precise life that we've started for. When we are fulfilled with that, then the money naturally flows after that too. So that's what I share and what I do, and that's my passion. Sometimes people ask me, well, why do you do this as an artist? Why not make your art all the time? I love to teach and I love to share. As being a body mind facilitator for over a decade, that teaching and giving back and sharing is my passion. And with that, I am complete.
Wow, Nadia, thank you so much. What I took from this is talk therapy has its limits. I never thought about that before. And utilizing art to tap into your creativity and how you help women do that, especially if they're feeling stuck, right? And then another thing, go through our feelings, not over it, not under it. We have to go through it. That's so powerful.
Yeah,
And then we'll be able to have that breakthrough, because if we avoid, then history
absolutely.
will keep repeating itself.
The breakthrough will never happen unless you have the understanding, the capacity, and the tools to sit with uncomfortable emotions. That's the numbness, the anger, the rage, the shame, the guilt, the depression, the suicidal, like all that whole spectrum of emotions. And I'm so passionate about sharing really practical tools for clients to experience, to acknowledge the emotion. Number one, you got to be able to know that you're even having the darn thing, to feel it, to work through it, and then to clear it out of your central nervous system, because it's in here. That's why you keep feeling that way. And talking about it just keeps you there. It keeps you spinning. You've got to get it out of your body. So
Powerful.
important. And then you go to Hillary to get it out of your pelvis. And I point that way because she's on the screen, because it's stuck, in our solar plexus, in our belly, and our solar plexus, in our base chakra, which is our root, our yoni. It's got to be cleared out of there.
Amazing. And Nadia, please tell us how we can find you on social media, or if you have any workshops coming up.
Yes. So first and foremost, the best way to find out about my resources and programs is on Instagram. So just like my name says here, Nadia Fairlamb Art is where I'm on Instagram. From there, you'll be able to see more about the online course and about the workshops and sessions that I offer. And even the art that I sell, I'll point back behind me to this. That's one of the sculptures that I have, that I made, that I sold to this client here. I have multiple workshop sessions coming up this month and next month. So on July 20th in Hawaii Kai, I'm teaching an Awaken Your Divine Feminine art therapy session, advanced creativity healing session. It's 2 hours in Hawaii Kai. That is open to the public. And that is for women that find that they're stuck in certain areas of their creativity, and they need to clear through these emotional blockages so they can continue with their work. Then at the end of the month, on the I believe it's the 28th of July, the last Friday of the month, I'm teaching another session like this in Aikahi at a yoga studio. So another advanced creativity healing session, and then one again in August. And then for any of your participants of this podcast, I have a really special offer for them, and only for people that have listened to this podcast, is I'm offering, just for a really short period of time, for only 7 days, is free creativity strategy sessions. So these are a 1 hour strategy session where I will help them fix why the overwhelm is happening, why their schedule feels like a burden, and why they can't get this stuff out of their body. And so that's a free 1-hour session with me, and I'll give you the link to put in your show notes, and that it's free for 7 days after for those participants, if they want to find out more about why these things are in their life.
Wow, Nadia, thank you so, so much. We will definitely put that in
Okay.
the link below and on all the social medias as well for people that are watching. Again, we want to thank Mutual Aid Network for helping to sponsor this podcast. I really appreciate Mutual Aid Network. So this network is of people all across the globe, of people who utilize their services and their strengths, and they help trade their time with other people who maybe might not have the finances for it at this time. So they're able to give back their strengths and in return receive another service from somebody else. So thank you, Mutual Aid Network, for being a part of this. I wanted to say that Innovative and Mutual Aid Network did collaborate together. I did want to share a testimony. One of my favorite patches is our complete vitamin with omega-3. So all your vitamins, minerals, and omega-3s that your body needs throughout the day being slow released through your body. Since we are talking about women and pregnant women, I have helped around 10 women who have been sick and nauseous during their pregnancy for whatever reason. And the huge horse pillow of vitamin may make them a little bit more sick and nauseous. So they're really thankful to have this patch during their pregnancy. And then, of course, they can see Nadia and Hillary for their artistic and pelvic needs as well. We're so thankful. So if you align with that and you want to help support Mutual Aid Network, please go to man.innov8tive.com, and you can check out the vitamin patches there. Again, thank you to Mutual Aid Network. Thank you, Nadia and Hillary, for being here on the World of Nutrition podcast. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.